Hello everyone, I'm Antonia Okafor, Director of Outreach for Gun Owners of America, and the founder and CEO of Empower 2A. As you may know, Empower 2A has teamed up with GOA, and we have big plans for 2020. But more on that in a moment. President Trump will soon be giving his State of the Union address, so I'd like to take this chance to give gun owners a state of the Second Amendment going into 2020. 2019 was the most chaotic year for the Second Amendment in the last 25 years. Nearly every media outlet in Washington, D.C. was convinced that they had finally reached a tipping point on the Second Amendment. Even presidential candidates like Robert Francis O'Rourke campaigned as president on radical gun control, saying, "Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15." According to gun controllers, 2019 would be the year when the right to keep and bear arms would finally be wiped out, and the long march to end civilian gun ownership was finally in sight. So what happened? While some states passed red flag gun confiscation laws, even more states rejected them. But in places where they did become law, the new measures allow for guns to be confiscated with no due process whatsoever. However, many of these states saw local officials rise up in a prairie rebellion and refuse to enforce these gun controls. At this point, anti-gunners have run up against the wall, and in many places around the country, efforts to expand red flag gun confiscation have stalled. On the other hand, the number of constitutional carry states in 2019 rose to 17. South Dakota, Kentucky, Oklahoma all joined the Constitutional Carry Club last year. And we're optimistic this freedom will extend to other states in 2020. Additionally, the Second Amendment sanctuary ordinance movement spread like wildfire across the U.S. Currently, over 400 local governments across 21 states passed measures affirming their citizens' right to keep and bear arms. Gun control groups, which have received billions of dollars from anti-gun hating billionaires, have tried to paint their very limited successes as a tidal wave. But for all the hype surrounding the gun control fight, the only achievement of anti-gunners to pass gun control is in already dark blue states. On the federal level, gun owners have succeeded in blocking virtually every anti-gun initiative. While Nancy Pelosi has spewed out one gun control measure after another, every one of them have been buried by the Senate, or has become so unpopular among red state Democrats that it didn't even reach the House floor. And even after the tragic shootings of El Paso, Texas, and Dayton, Ohio, GOA's members sent over 3 million messages to Capitol Hill and the White House, helping to further stall gun control efforts. More recently, some anti-gunners rejoice over a $25 million appropriation bill for gun research by the CDC. But for all their hoopla, the Dickey Amendment remained in place, despite the best efforts of the gun controllers to strike it from federal law. So the ability of the bureaucracy to advocate for gun control is diminished. Furthermore, gun owners rallied hard to keep an anti-gunner from being the head of the ATF. And while President Trump enacted a bump stock ban, we are reasonably optimistic that we will succeed in convincing the Supreme Court and the Sixth Circuit to overturn it. Likewise, gun owners forced New York to repeal its unconstitutional limitations to resident permit holders. We're still waiting to hear back from the Supreme Court on this case. Not only could it overturn New York City's restrictions on transporting handguns, the court could rebuke lower court judges for not recognizing the Second Amendment for what it says. So as much as the anti-gun media have tried to shut down favorable news about the Second Amendment community. Gun owners are stronger now more than ever before. In fact, despite all the resources, the anti-gun Goliath has been pretty much wiped out by the pro-gun David. Even with all of these challenges, I've never been more optimistic for the future. That's because Empower 2A will be engaging America's high school and college students for the Second Amendment. College campuses are often ground zero for the hearts and minds of today's youth. And that's why Empower 2A will be a pivotal part of our plans for outreach in 2020 and beyond. The core message of Empower 2A is that our right to self-defense empowers everyone, but it especially empowers women, students, and minorities. A narrative contrary to what anti-gunners want young people to believe. I am excited over the next few months to introduce to you our young leaders who are leading the fight for the preservation of our rights on college campuses and state legislators across the country. So, in conclusion, gun owners should be optimistic while going into 2020. But we need to be more vocal than ever before to defend our rights. I'm Antonia Okafor for GOA, and I look forward to working with you to restore our right to keep and bear arms in 2020. Thanks for watching.